Hey everybody, it's Norm from Tested here at Propstore with Brandon. Brandon, great to see you.
Norm, good to see you.
It's finally we're doing a video together after so long.
I know.
I was really excited to talk
You're on
about
the other
this
side
now.
of the camera.
Yes, and we're on a different side of the office because this is your poster and ephemera collection.
Yeah,
right?
that's right. Yeah, we have a very active poster division here at Propstore. John and Paul are taking care of all these great vintage pieces. You can see some of the things that are going to be in an upcoming sale here. And obviously many posters back behind us.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's look, we love all aspects of film and television. I think posters go so hand in hand with the Propstore brand. It's if you are someone who's a fan of these films and shows, how can you not love the posters? And of course, the same can be said about, I will call it production ephemera, right? The documents, the photographs, the behind the scenes elements that are all part of the making of the films.
And we're talking about a couple lots here that caught my eye as I was flipping through the latest catalog. This one really jumped out at me because these are 3 binders from the production of Tim Burton's Superman Lives.
Yeah.
The storied production of the movie that never was.
Right, they did a whole documentary of it, right?
Yes.
And it's going to star Nick Cage.
Yes.
And
I mean, growing up in the 90s, right? Like you had Tim Burton's Batman films. You and I both grew up with those, loved those. And Superman was dormant.
Right.
One of the crown jewels of the Warner Brothers empire.
Right.
We had the Chris
it kind of
Reeves
belongs
films.
to the moment before, the generation before.
The 70s.
The 70s kids all love Superman the movie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so what would it be to bring that the excitement of Batmania to Superman?
Yeah.
And ride that wave, ride that momentum. They weren't talking about like interconnected universes. This was not the DCU.
Yeah.
This is just like, let's reboot Superman.
Yeah, but I guess they really didn't accomplish it until Superman Returns with Brandon Routh.
That's
Is
right.
that right?
That's right.
Yeah.
And that was again a storied thing of
06?
yes, piggybacking off of Batman Returns to the name. But this is before that.
Yeah.
And this is producer John Peters.
Yeah.
If anyone
who did Batman, the first Batman.
That's right. With, So all that clout, all that momentum in the studio system hired Kevin Smith, and he's told the story so many times. An evening with Kevin Smith, his script, him coming to pitch in the meetings, them loving his idea, his beef with John Peters wanting the robot spider, which we eventually saw in Wild Wild West. That's right. But you got to see it got to a point where they had hired Tim Burton, hired Nicolas Cage. And they had costume tests. You see in the documentary footage.
And there's photos. We've even had some little swatches, fragments, I think, of the suits.
Yeah, but it is fragments of the story that we're getting. People from their recollection. Yeah. And what we get here are this is the actual production binder as it stands in 97.
I mean, as far as I know, this is kind of unprecedented. It's a huge production paperwork archive, 3 binders, a lot of internal memos, some elements of script, some notes on script, ideas on who they're going to use for different things. Really fascinating archive, came from a key person who was involved directly with the production and has had it tucked away ever since. There's probably information here that doesn't exist anywhere else, that isn't in that documentary or anything. So for diehard superhero fans, I think there's a lot here to get excited about.
I mean, you have, if you're into the movie industry, these names, like they're talking about who the costume designer is going to be. Tim wanting Colleen Atwood, right? Wanting a certain cinematographer, but the studio might want a different one. Like these are this is how movies made. This is the wheeling and dealing, the negotiations that have to work, have to go in place to lock in locations, to come up with who they want to work with in the business. Yeah. And this is very much a moment in time. Yeah. Nothing's been shot yet. They've just been doing these tests. They have a script. And so you even have empty sections of the binder where it's not been filled out yet. Yeah. But parts that would have been filled out, like a calendar.
Production calendar.
Yeah, pre-production stuff. Descriptions.
Summer 97.
Oh my gosh.
Look, Comic-Con has made the calendar there.
Right. And there's a whole binder just on merchandising,
which they started
toys.
very early on.
Of course, right? That's the John Peters expertise, right? Right.
The important part.
And things about
budget info,
makeup, right? Oh my, this is all really really interesting personal stuff. Wardrobe budget and characters. If you're just thinking about if your interest is Superman as a character and what you want to see of that mythos on screen. Yeah. You might have heard, okay, it was going to be fighting Brainiac, or was there going to be a Doomsday? And this tells you very much Superman's going to have Luthor, Brainiac, and Doomsday as the villains. Yeah. And they have the VFX stuff, all the planning to do with the makeup effects, all the special effects.
VFX outline.
What you need for Superman: flying, heat vision, X-ray vision, catching bullets, right? Yeah. All this stuff to go into making a movie. Even for someone who's maybe just an aspiring producer. This is how
Yeah.
super useful.
I mean, it just shows the amount of planning that goes into making a big film like this. And again, it's, all of this would be organic and be developing as the story is changing, as the characters are changing and such. So, I'm seeing things back here like movement lists, which is generally the crew moving around. Okay, that section's blank. So, so I'm going, how can they have movement lists if they don't have a locked script? But, this was probably a binder that someone key on the film was developing as they went.
Yeah. Production notes and script notes. So you were noticing there's actually a section script here.
Yes.
They're like
it looks like it has
couple
some
dozen
partial
pages.
scripts.
Yeah.
And then maybe some script outlines where we have script summaries and such, a few different drafts over different dates. Strick, who was one of the writers at one point, I believe. These are sort of 9-10 page outlines. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, how much is known about the story of this film? Is there a lot known of that?
I think there's a lot of hearsay and a lot of word of mouth.
Yeah.
And I don't think anything tangible like this. I think versions of the script are out. But like I said, this is a moment in time when you have producers' notes about which part they might want to cut out, which part they want to leave in.
Yeah.
So just as an artifact of like what's going on in their head, what's going on in that world.
Yeah.
This is a year before, they were supposed to get into production on this.
And I think the binder right there has a lot of the visual material, right? Storyboards and such.
Yeah, and I also love that, for the cover of this, I'm not sure if this is from production, but they took, the death of Superman, fighting Doomsday. That's their inspiration. That's their touchstone.
Yeah.
This is Superman dying in the comics, right? Massive event in the world of comics. It leads into, the return of Superman with the reign of Superman, the fourth Superman, Superboy, Eradicator, Man of Steel. Oh, I know my comics. Yeah. And Eradicator becomes a character in here. So again, like anyone reading comics, watching the Batman films, imagining what could Tim Burton's Superman be, all of that's here. And then here, very specific, like
storyboards. Yeah. I wonder who their storyboard artist was.
I was wondering that too, but it's just a list.
It's probably in here somewhere. Here. Yeah, shot list.
Shot list.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if it's David Ellis or that's a producer, not approved.
Yeah.
But this is like hundreds of different individual frames. What I love is there's a whole section on Doomsday, right? Presumably the big bad after Brainiac that Superman has to physically fight. And so you have the shot list. And you have scenes here of Superman in action fighting, presumably Doomsday, but Doomsday is a shadowy figure.
Right.
He doesn't have even the silhouette with the spikes of the character that we know from the comics. It's just at this point. And you think
that's because the design was just to be determined?
I think so. I suspect that's the case. But you still need to get a sense of what the action beats are.
Yeah.
And the different angles that you're going to want, and how the pacing, right? Like exactly. Look at that. He's fighting a Doomsday, and that's just.
Yeah. I remember Joe Johnston talking about Star Wars storyboards and him saying very specifically, a storyboard is not a design order. It's not showing you the concepts of the spaceship or the costumes or anything like that. It's just kind of what they roughed in at the moment. Yeah. It's all about the shot composition, shot flow, visual flow. The designs live elsewhere, right? It's sort of a separate discipline to be working on the designs of things as opposed to the shots themselves.
And today, this would be done digitally, right? And you'd be able to animate them as well. And so you got to have more back in the day to show frame by frame, shot by shot, what these are. I mean, each one of these is a little piece of art. I love just, again, the fact that they're in this binder format, that someone, whoever picks this up, will be able to flip through and be in the head, be as if they were, an assistant, a producer's assistant in the room. That's just super cool.
Yeah. No, it's a little snapshot of that production. And it's really sort of symbolic of Hollywood, of so many productions that get deep, deep, deep down the road and don't wind up going through, right? Never are realized, but still a huge amount of time, effort, energy, and ultimately money went into getting them to this stage.
Pay or play. You get paid no matter what. That's right. So that's Superman Lives, these 3 binders. What you also have, and can slide these aside, you have a treasure trove of photographs. Can we bring some of these in?
Yeah, no, some really great content. So all from one consigner, a longtime film industry veteran named Stuart Ziff, who worked on many movies in the 70s and 80s. But
that's him right here?
This is Stuart Ziff, yep. So this is him on Ghostbusters, where he actually ran the Ghost Shop, which is what they called the Ghostbusters Creature Shop, where they built Slimer and Stay Puft and the Subway Ghost and all these very memorable characters. I guess he was Onion Head at this point on the first movie, not Slimer. But this is a lot of material that's come from him. And so with the Ghostbusters
literal
stuff,
Polaroids.
Yeah, these are Polaroids of clay concept maquettes.
Oh
so,
my gosh.
working on the design of Onion Head. Steve Johnson famously did this character. I think that's Steve there, working on the full-size puppet. And then these are some studio photos. These are just prints that Stuart had copies of. So this is, of course, the full-size Terror Dog puppet. This gentleman here is Michael Gross, who's the producer of Ghostbusters, and that's Stuart. And then there's a great shot of the gang with Gozer and the Terror Dog puppets there. This is just a tiny sample. This is a big lot, I think, I don't know, well over 100 photos, maybe a couple hundred photos. Some are snapshots like this, some are Polaroids, different looks of things that, you know, some funny looks on the Marshmallow Man and such, very different to the final form. It's a fascinating collection. And then, of course, before he ran the creature shop on Ghostbusters, Stuart also worked extensively on Return of the Jedi, doing the creatures with Phil Tippett. And then he was on it for basically the whole shoot. He went to Elstree Studios in the UK for a few months. And then he went on location in the Yuma Desert and here in the Redwoods in Smith River.
Wow.
And one of the things about, this is Skywalker Ranch, actually, that'll be one of the 4th of July picnics. But one of the things about location shooting is generally personal cameras are banned in the studio. For whatever reason on location, everyone has a camera. It's just, I don't know, it's just accepted that if you're on location, you can bring your camera. So we've seen far more candid behind the scenes photos from location on films like the Star Wars films than anything else. That's a great shot of all the Ewok actors and some of the crew lined up at the end. Who can we see in there? Let's see. This is David Tomblin, the assistant director, over on the left.
And it's these personal collections. When you think of like the quintessential, like the shoebox of photos that you might find in a relative's attic, right? This is like the shoebox of the guy who was on set working on Star Wars, working on Ghostbusters, and all his photos and negatives too.
And right, which is fantastic because these are vintage prints. I mean, these were printed in 1982. They're small. I mean, maybe that's 3x5. One thing that's neat about the vintage prints is they are dated. So I guess he was labeling the negative rolls as he was shooting them, and then they transfer that date to the negative folder. Each folder is stamped with a date and then to the prints as well. But when we went in and digitized the negatives, you just get a really nice modern image. I mean, you can pull, I'm sure you know, you can pull so much detail out of a 35 millimeter negative, you know, far more than what you're seeing in this little 3x5 print here. So some of the negatives, they just photographed beautifully. And
for you, as someone who's such a Star Wars obsessive and knows so much of the story, even the day-to-day, month-to-month of how these movies were made, you know, as you're going through the scans and looking at these pictures, what are you learning and what's jumping out at you?
I mean, Star Wars has probably been studied more than any movie ever. So, you know, if you're in that world, you've seen all the books, you've seen all the everything that's been posted online. There's so many photos that we've all seen so many times. When you see something new, it's just a fascinating angle on it. And you know,
and sometimes literally just a different angle.
Yes.
Right. It's just like, oh, they're shooting that scene. They're here in Marin, and it's just, you can see it's a little more candid.
I mean, candid really is the word. There's a lot here that just, it wouldn't normally be photographed because it's not really part of the production process. But Star Wars fans know who Phil Tippett is. We know who Stuart Freeborn is. We know Stuart's wife, Kay, who did the makeup on all the actors. There's some, you know, there's all the great behind the scenes footage of Kay, like brushing Chewbacca's wig out and such. And here they are, you know, having dinner and having a beer and a cigarette. And here's the gang. That's Phil Tippett, Stuart Ziff. That's Dave Carson, another longtime ILM guy. I'm not sure who that is, but I think she was on the Creature team as well. And that back there, you can just tell is Admiral Akbar's costume. So this is at Elstree Studios in the UK. This is Yuma, Arizona.
Oh my goodness! Wow, yeah.
The Pig Guard. That's Kirk Thatcher, another ILM guy.
Puppets director. Yeah.
Stuart Ziff, Kirk Thatcher, the Gamorrean. You know, this is, I can't even tell. That's raising them up maybe on a camera platform. Great shots of like Boba Fett taking off from the skiff. And all this stuff is, you know, these are photos that he shot with his camera at the time. So you'll never see these images elsewhere.
And when I think of like a studio photo, behind the scenes photo, you know, they have an on-set photographer, right? We've been on sets and it's usually someone walking around and their job is to make sure they get photos like this, right? With the heroes in costume and some of the key heads of department with what they're making. That's what they'll publicly release. But all of this just puts into imagery, into life, that these are real people, real artists, real craftspeople, just working day to day, making the things that we love. And you know,
and in some cases, they're capturing really, like, look, this is Luke and Leia, the stunt doubles, I'm sure, on a giant crane doing the swing out to the barge. I mean, I've never seen an official still like that. So, you know, it's sort of it's a little treasure trove of just things that you haven't seen before. I remember in one of the color slides that Stuart Ziff had from the barge, there's guys fixing the resin lightsaber props that they're shooting out of the, you know, dome of R2-D2, and they're literally, you can see on the table there, he's got like a broken lightsaber and he's trying to piece it back together so they can get another takeout. And it's just that type of thing that you would never hear that as a story, but the photo gives you the story in 35 millimeter, so to speak.
I mean, with so much that's available on the internet for a movie as well documented as Star Wars, it's always so. It's a nice reminder that there's always more.
That's right.
There's
there
always
really is.
more, right? Whether it's a physical prop that you're finding or just the ephemera, the imagery, you know, there are probably, you know, tens of thousands of images out there from people with their cameras on set that have yet to see the light of day that
we
provide
hope tucked away in shoe boxes.
Right,
But
exactly.
this, you know, Stuart was very organized with it. So, you know, we do sometimes see Polaroids, prints, things like that, but to have the full set of the prints and all the negatives to go with them and some color slides as well, this was a real treasure trove. I think these are, you know, that's a slide on the deck of the barge. This is building the Sarlacc pit.
Oh, wow.
So that's like, you know, the mouth of the Sarlacc pit that the guys would fall down into. And just a lot of stuff that hasn't been seen before. So we're going to be sharing some of this online on social media and such in the run up to the auction. I think maybe a couple images just went up the other day. Fans will get a kick out of just seeing these things for the first time.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Brandon, for archiving this stuff, digitizing some of this stuff, but also letting me handle it. It's really the tangible aspect. Flipping through the binder, flipping through the Polaroids and the negatives. That's such a real pleasure. Yeah. The auction, I know, it's coming out later in March.
Yes. Yeah, March 25th, 26th, and 27th. The first days at the Peterson Automotive Museum. Obviously, everything's online. The catalog is online now. Over 1,300 lots of film and television. There's also, we were talking about ephemera. There's some animation in this one, so over 200 lots of animation artwork in total. A lot of great content. Take a look.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, Norm.